This afternoon in my office, I was just messing around putting different lenses on the S9 to see what lenses would actually really work well with this camera. Of course, one of the biggest sort of complaints so far that I've seen is that there's no sort of compact lenses to go with the S9. So I wanted to sort of figure out what lens combo would actually work really well, given what this camera can do. And surprisingly, I think I found one that's going to work extremely well for me, and it might actually spend quite a lot of time on my S9, and that is the Lumix 18mm f1.8. Now I'm talking about a lens that will be good for both photo and video, that will be good for cropping both vertically and horizontally, and there's many reasons despite the weird focal length why I think this one is a really good match for the S9. Of course, this camera has been marketed towards the content creator, the sort of creative that just wants to get that quick social clip, or that wants to, potentially just do more photography and stuff. And today I was filming reels with this camera, and I was actually so surprised at how useful it is for that particular use case, for the sort of social creative. So let me just run through some of the benefits of using the 18mm f1.8 with the S9. First and foremost, it's a f1.8 lens, which means that in low light scenarios, you're going to be absolutely fine, and you're going to let in all of the light that you could possibly ever need. That's a fantastic thing, of course, and the actual form factor of the 18mm as well isn't so big. In fact, any of the 1.8 primes are going to be a nice match for the S9 in my opinion, in terms of sort of weight distribution and of course general footprint. And then another thing was, like, if you ever want to do any sort of self-filming and stuff, so if you want to take the camera, flip that LCD screen out, you want something that's going to be quite wide for that. So realistically, having something like a 50mm or an 85mm will be great, sort of slapping that on if you're just doing photography, for example. But if you're filming different things, like for example yourself to camera, like I would be now, or if you're filming yourself just at an arm's length, or if you want to get sort of more establishing shots and B-roll, then you're going to need a sort of wider angle than the 50 or an 85mm. Or even a 35mm, for that matter, because 35 is still actually quite close when you're trying to film yourself. So the 18mm sort of delivers that. And then one of my favorite features of the S9, and generally, all of the Lumix sort of modern cameras, if you like the S5 II, the S5 IIX, etc., the later generation, if you like, is the stabilization mode. So setting that to high, the new high mode on the S9, of course it crops in slightly, but if you want to film B-roll and stuff of any sort of product or anything that you're sort of doing, and you want to have that really stable, then if you use that stabilization mode set to high with the 18mm, it'll crop in a little bit, but you're still more than wide enough, or at a decent sort of focal range, so that you can get some nice B-roll, you can still get a nice establishing shot, and it doesn't really limit you as much as it would, let's say, if you're cropping in on a 50mm or an 85mm. But the great thing is that because it's so wide, you can crop for horizontal, you can crop for vertical. So let's say after the fact you're like, what, I actually want to post this to my story, or I want to post it, on my actual in-feed posts or whatever, then you can go ahead and crop it vertically as well as having it horizontally. So the wide angle aspect of it actually allows you to crop your photos both ways as well. Another feature that we can utilize inside the S9 to help us with this further cropping in camera and therefore less editing in post is the new crop zoom function. And I've actually got it assigned to my quick menu, so I can quickly go ahead and grab that function if I need it. But essentially on the side of the screen, what you will get when you have your crop zoom enabled is you'll get this little sort of toggle that will allow you to sort of zoom in and zoom out digitally based on whatever focal length lens you're using. So that means that when you're using the 18mm, you're starting from 18mm and then so on and so forth, depending on how compressed you want your sort of final image to be. So there's 3 different compression settings you can choose, and if you have small selected as your sort of minimum image size, and it means that you can get a little bit more reach, but of course at the cost of worse image quality. And then if you have medium or large selected as your minimum, then it means that of course the amount of zoom you get, digitally zoom you get, is less. But I'd say that sort of around the 35 to 40mm mark, that's a good point to still get really nice detailed images that are shareable on socials. And again, when you look at the general market for sort of fixed point and shoot style cameras, you know, the sort of side of the market that I think the S9 is definitely gearing itself more towards, the Leica Q series has a 28mm lens. That's a very wide lens. Granted, it's not 18mm wide, but you know, if you stand far back enough, you won't see too much distortion. And with the amount of resolution you're getting and the full frame sort of look, cropping in slightly is not going to look bad at all. So if you did want something that's your sort of one and done lens, I can totally see this being a great one. Of course, for sort of portrait work and anything that's a little bit more sort of intricate, then you know, this isn't going to be a great option. But again, I'm thinking about one lens here that will sort of work pretty much for every sort of social sharing scenario, if you like. Again, trying to think really about where this camera is going to excel. I really hope you guys can see why I think the 18mm is such a great pairing with the Lumix S9. And if you do, that's fantastic. And if you'd like to get the set for yourself, you can actually get it from Panasonic directly on their direct store using the link in my description. There's actually a curated kit with the 18mm, the Lumix S9 in black, just like the one that I use, and a spare battery should you want to go ahead and support the channel, but also get this great kit for yourself. So if you'd like to go ahead and check that out, then I'd really appreciate it. And even if you want to buy the S9 or the lens separately and you just think that either or would be a good choice for you, then you can go ahead and click that link too, and you can just buy either or. Now, I'm actually going to make a few videos surrounding this sort of topic of lens choices with the Lumix S9, because I actually think it's a really interesting sort of thing to think about. Of course, it's not going to be a sort of street photography sort of setup for the camera, but in my opinion, content creation and street photography are two very different use cases for this camera. If you want to go out and shoot street photography, then I'd recommend the 35mm DGDN lens from Sigma in the I series. Again, I've got another video coming out about why these lenses are a fantastic fit for the S9 for that specific use case, so definitely keep an eye out if you are interested in doing street photography with this camera. But for now, that's all I have to say in terms of a content creation package. This is a very, very good combo to go with. If you guys want to know anything else about the S9, if you want a setup guide, if you want any more content, let me know and I'll be very, very happy to make it. Also, please continue to watch the videos if you want to know more about how to use your Lumix cameras in the most effective way, how to set them up correctly, and of course, how to get the best output from them. So thanks for watching again, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.